achieved.
You know, it's a very rare occasion where your fighter loses the fight and you, at least from a predictor standpoint, and you still are happy with the outcome. In addition, it's also a very rare occasion when you get back-to-back Fight of the Year candidates. And that's what we had on Saturday night. UFC 236, Dustin Poirier claiming the interim UFC lightweight title, defeating Max Holloway. And Israel Adesanya turning the same trick, defeating Kelvin Gastelum to claim the interim middleweight title. Two amazing fights back and forth. All four fighters had their moments, and ultimately the opposite guys I picked came out on top. But still, I enjoyed it as a fight fan. It was good to see how that played out. Just generally speaking, it was a fun night of fights. It was a very good night as a fight fan, as somebody sitting back enjoying the action that was going down. Nonetheless, I very much look forward to what's going to happen. You know, Whitaker versus Adesanya will be massive. Nurmagomedov versus Poirier should also do very well. I'm really looking forward to that. Welcome back to Kamikaze Overdrive MMA Predictions. Always, I am your host, Scott Johnson, and on this episode of the show, we are breaking down the upcoming UFC Fight Night 149 event, which will take place in St. Petersburg, Russia on April 20th, this Saturday. Again, I'm delayed getting this out there. I've had a number of things come up this week that's prevented me from getting it going. I'd also like to say thank you very much to all my viewers. My last video, this is a record for me. My last video hit my all-time highest number of views. Again, it was only really relevant for, 4 days? So that's... that isn't much, but if I click on the video, again, awesome is 12,173 views. That's impressive. That's huge for me. I've never had a video hit that high. I've been in the 5 to 7 range before, but never that high. So very thankful for all of my followers. And it did suck. I was 8-2 going into the final 3 fights and proceeded to lose all 3 of those fights. Roundtree put together a good matchup to go into the two final fights of the night. Nonetheless, we have a what's called an interesting card ahead of us. Not an overwhelming card as far as top-end talent or top well-known talent, but still, it's definitely worth watching, definitely looking forward to it. And the bet packs will be for sale on this event. I'm not anticipating huge sales for this card. It's an afternoon card in Russia, so we'll see how things go. But hey, sometimes it's these events where you put together a good performance, and before you know it, you're walking away with some sizable cash in your pocket. We'll have to see if that plays out here. And on that note, that's enough rambling for me. Let's get to our first main card prediction. The opening fight of the night transpires in the UFC's middleweight division as 19-4-0 Krzysztof Jotko takes on the undefeated debuting Alen Amedovski. Again, I'm probably Amedovski. I'm probably butchering that, most likely I am. Jotko comes into this fight having lost 3 consecutive bouts, a split decision loss against David Branch, back-to-back TKO defeats against Uriah Hall and Brad Tavares. He had won 6 of 7 prior to this skid. For Amedovski, as he's undefeated, 2-0 under the Bellator banner, both wins by knockout. His last 2 opponents are pretty solid, pretty good record of 12-3. Now for Jotko, he's 2 inches taller, he'll have a 4-inch reach advantage, and he is the younger fighter by a year. Now, looking at Amedovski's record, he has 8 wins by TKO or KO. All 8 of his victories that way. 6 in the first round. 5 before the 2-minute mark. His longest fight hit the 3:57 mark of the second round. That's not an overly impressive... That's an impressive finishing rate, but it's not the type of record you say there's not a lot of depth to his record. He made his pro debut in 2012, fought once a year for a couple of years, and then had a 3-year layoff between 2015 and 2018 where he fought 3 times and has become much more active. So there's a lot of red flags there. Prior to his Bellator fight, his 3 opponents that he fought had a combined record of 4-4. I think only one of them actually had wins. It's not a lot of depth there. Minimal overall experience in both quality and quantity, short fights, and a lot of knockouts, and he's making his debut, so it's a lot of red flags. When you look at something recently we saw Randy Costa take on Brandon Davis. Costa came with a very impressive similar record. Lots of knockouts, lots of early finishes. And then you see a guy like that take a step up in the UFC and against a fighter, if they have some durability to them and some ability to grind, they get you into that second half of the fight, and it's not the same as fighting in the regional scene, and he ultimately lost the matchup. Now for Krzysztof Jotko, he's actually entering this fight off another scenario that I really like. He has lost 3 consecutive fights. Is he that type of fighter who's going to go on a massive losing skid and his career is over? I don't think so. Prior to this 3-fight losing streak, he had won 19 of 20. Now, fighters that traditionally have lost 3 in a row often get written off. But one thing that's worth noting, they usually take, and he's fought all ranked opponents, and now he's getting a debuting guy with less than 10 pro fights. So they get a sizable step back in competition. They don't get the respect they're expected to get because, hey, this guy's in a big losing streak. Can he beat anybody anymore? It's been almost a year since we've seen him pick up a victory. What's going on here? But the bettors tend to be, or at least the lineman, seem to be giving him an edge at minus 180, so he's getting some respect there. Now, Jotko's grinding style is an absolutely beautiful foil for that quick knockout approach of Amedovski. Slow the fight down, drag him deep, take him out of his element, wear him out, and grind him to a decision or possible late finish. As at Amedovski, he's looking for that quick hitter. He's got that recent knockout history of Jotko that he's certainly looking towards, looking to capitalize on Jotko. He's had fights where he's done very well, especially in the Hall fight. He was ahead in that matchup before he got knocked out. So it's not like Jotko's going to just walk through this fight with relative ease. There's going to be some tense moments. There's going to be some times where you're looking at this going, okay, is he going to get out of here or not unscathed? But ultimately, I think he's going to. He struggled with the range of Brad Tavares, who's more of a technical striker, but he used a lot of feints in that matchup, which I liked. It can be very effective against a power puncher. Throw his rhythm off, force him to do a lot of stuff he's not comfortable with, get him, bring his offense out and attacking when Jotko's actually not even there to be hit. I think Jotko's going to stand at range, he'll land some strikes, but he'll opt to close and look for takedowns and clinch fighting. Again, I just don't like backing a fighter who's making his debut with Amedovski's track record. He probably needs a first-round knockout here. He's had two fighters take him into the second round with a combined record of 4-2. They're just not high-quality opposition. Conversely, again, I like backing that proven UFC fighter, especially if he's on a 3-fight losing skid. He's much better than that skid would suggest. He recognizes his back's against the wall. Jotko loses this matchup. He's most likely out the door. I think he gets it done here. My prediction is Krzysztof Jotko to defeat Alen Amedovski by decision. Fight number 2 in the main card transpires in the women's flyweight division as the 7th-ranked Roxanne Modafferi returns to action, taking on the 12th-ranked Antonina Shevchenko, of course, the sister of the reigning divisional champion Valentina Shevchenko. Now, Roxanne is coming off a decision loss to Ciara Eubanks. She actually avoided her post-fight title fight letdown scenario, the one fight prior when she defeated Barb Honchak. She had lost to Montano in the tough final. It was kind of a weird situation, getting thrown at the last second. She made the most of it, came up short, but hey, good opportunity for her. Now, Shevchenko, she made her debut in her last fight against Ji Yeon Kim and won a decision to maintain her undefeated record coming into this again. But this is another step up in competition against a battle-tested veteran of the sport. Modafferi will actually have a 2-inch reach advantage. Shevchenko is a taller girl by an inch, and she's 2 years younger. Now, this fight ultimately comes down to whether or not Modafferi can score takedowns and do it with relative consistency. Roxanne, she's capable of working on the feet. She's got the very herky-jerky motion, in and out, engaged, but she's considerably better on the mat, especially from top position. Against Kim, Shevchenko didn't face any takedowns and actually landed 2 of her own, which is surprising to a lot of people. They thought Kim would look to put her on the mat. Roxanne has averaged just 1.13 takedowns per fight at a 15% completion rate. Those aren't good numbers. But once she does get her opponent down, she's very good at holding them down. She's very good at ground and pound. She's effective from the position, absolutely. On the flip side, we've also seen Roxanne give up takedowns, 3 against Eubanks, 3 against Montano. Shevchenko, like her sister, has a striking background, but has shown the ability to go to the mat and have success there. She's got good ground and pound from top position. Defensively, her hips are solid. She's got a good sprawl. She can be taken down from the clinch, and Modafferi could look to exploit that, but I think Shevchenko is an overall better fighter, and Modafferi, unfortunately, probably starting to trend down now at this point in her career. I think Shevchenko will do damage both at distance and in the clinch. She's an excellent, that tie clinch with knees. She has strong head pressure for that position, really uses her forearm to frame and control her opponent where she can do damage. If Modafferi can drag her down, make this a dog fight, and get her to the floor with, early and maybe tire her out, she could find more success as the fight goes. But I think Shevchenko is going to just ultimately defend fights. Roxanne has actually been known to slow down in fights as well, especially if she puts a lot of effort trying to get Shevchenko to the mat and doesn't have a lot of return benefit from it. Look for Shevchenko to fend off some early takedown attempts, land some kicks, maybe slow down Modafferi just a little bit, do some damage in the clinch, and really start to find success as Modafferi slows down in the second half of the fight. And my prediction is Antonina Shevchenko to defeat Roxanne Modafferi by decision. Moving up the ranks, we head to the UFC's light heavyweight division as Devin Clark takes on the debuting Ivan Shtyrkov. Clark comes in with an overall record of 9-3. Shtyrkov, a very impressive 15-0-1. I'm probably butchering his name. It's the best I can do right now. Clark's coming off a pretty disappointing loss to Alexander Rakic, a fight he nearly won, had Rakic in all kinds of trouble in the first round, and then Clark actually got finished himself. It would have been a big victory for him. For Shtyrkov, he's debuting, he's undefeated, and he actually has a very solid list, a very crazy, forgot about that guy type list of opponents he's beaten. He's coming off a submission win over Thiago Silva. He TKO'd Fabio Maldonado, Christian Mapumbo, Ishii, De Vries, Bigfoot Silva, Rico Rodriguez, Jeff Monson. A lot of guys he's come up with. Now, you'll notice some of those guys are heavyweights. And that's worth noting, as Shtyrkov is formerly a heavyweight. He's coming down to light heavyweight, and Clark is formerly a middleweight, and he's been fighting at light heavyweight for a while. He's 3-2 since moving up to 205. Shtyrkov, he weighs in around the 235, 240 mark, and he is a massively muscled individual. The Ural Hulk is what they call him, and the name suits him. He's just a big man, especially in his upper body. And it's a big question, can he get down to 205, and can he do it comfortably that it's not going to inhibit his ability to perform? I don't know if he can or not. We'll find out. Now, I said he's undefeated. 11 of 15 wins have come by stoppage, 6 by KO in the and 8 in the first round. So not too bad. 5 wins by submission. He's shown he's a multifaceted fighter. He's not just some big hulking brute. 6 of his 7 first 7 pro victories were done in the opening frame. Conversely, over his last 9 fights, he's had just 2 end in the first round, 2 coming in the second round. So despite his heavily muscled big physique, he's 8-0 after the first round. So it's not like he's gassing up. But again, he's probably been fighting at heavyweight. I can't remember. Yeah, I think I forgot to mention that both guys are 6 feet tall. Clark is the younger fighter by 2 years. Shtyrkov's fighting at home, but he's also taking this fight on short notice, just a month to step in for the opponent that pulled out. With Shtyrkov, he's got good power in his hands, but he throws mainly power strikes. He's kind of a brute in that sense that he'll move forward and likes to chuck heavy leather and just wear guys out and finish them with relative ease. But when you go to that Thiago Silva fight, he showcased a fairly solid grappling attack. He took him down. He fended off an attempted triangle, and then ultimately set up an armbar for the finish. He snapped it up pretty good. It was a solid overall sequence of events. So it showcases he's not just a guy who's going to try and thump you and hope to get you out of there. And now, again, I think the biggest thing here beyond his skill set is that short notice factor and the cutting to 205. The guy is a beast. His nickname is the Hulk. He's huge. How is he going to fare getting on 205 on short notice and making his debut? Now, for Devin Clark, he's got power in his own right. He hurt Rakic on a couple of occasions. He's pretty quick for the division, coming up from middleweight, which is certainly something that favors him. He has a tendency to slow down. But he can be a grinder. He's got good wrestling. We saw him against Mike Rodriguez grind him out and use that control against Josh Stansbury as well. And he could use that to slow down Shtyrkov here in this matchup and really take him out of his element. Now, the thing we have to be concerned about here is that Clark's been finished twice by knockout, both in the UFC. He's also been submitted once, so all of his losses by finish. He is susceptible to guys who are going to go after the finish. And that concern that he gets hurt and gets finished by a power puncher, or gets hurt and submitted on the mat, or gets sloppy and caught on the mat, is a legit concern here. Shtyrkov is going to be dangerous early in this matchup. I think that's just very evident. But I expect to see him start to slow down. And if Clark can endure that early action, use his speed, avoid them engaging, grind him out in the cage, and really take him out of his element, this is going to favor him significantly. I think he's going to use that ability to move, just his overall quickness, to avoid, get Shtyrkov slowing down, and take this matchup over. And I think Clark eventually gets him out of there, maybe with some wrestling and some ground and pound, maybe through some exhaustion. But my prediction is Devin Clark to defeat Ivan Shtyrkov by TKO. Bit of an upset, folks. Taking a slight bump up in weight, we move to the UFC's heavyweight division as Sergei Pavlovich, with a record of 12 wins and 1 loss, takes on the 6-2 Marcelo Golm out of Brazil. Now, Pavlovich made his debut last time out in November. He took on Alistair Overeem. I correctly predicted Overeem with a slight upset of the debuting fighter. He lost by first-round knockout, the first loss of his career. Now, Golm, he debuted with a victory, a submission victory over Christian Colombo. It seems like it was ages ago. He has since dropped back-to-back decisions. Now, both guys basically 6'3". Pavlovich, though, should come in around 10 pounds heavier, and he will have a significant 9-inch reach advantage over the Brazilian. Now, Golm, he came to the UFC having beat some very low-level competition. His 3 pre-UFC opponents, his last 3 were a record of 2-7. It's always important to look at these guys and see who they're beating up in the regional scene and what kind of quality of opposition they're facing before they step into the octagon. It's also worth noting all of his wins came in the opening round, and he continued that trend for his first UFC fight, and he looked impressive. But he's gone 3 rounds in each of his last 2 matchups, and he's lost them both. Is this a scenario he's improved as a result of? Has he learned from the situation? Has he come around? Has he adjusted? I don't know. We're going to find that out. But I can hypothesize. I don't think he has. I think he's the type of fighter who he doesn't have that type of offense that's going to work well over a full 3 rounds. But again, this is a fight where he could definitely prove me wrong. Now, as I said, another thing too, he had very limited experience outside of Brazil. He fought in Canada, I believe, in one of his 2 fights, and now he's heading to Russia, which is a massive deal. A Brazilian heading to Russia is going to be a big deal, and that can certainly serve as a sizable distraction. Now, he is a BJJ black belt. Only 1 win by submission. His first 5 career TKO victories mostly came from top position. So he's going to want to get this fight to the ground, and that's certainly something we're going to expect him to try at least here. Now for Pavlovich, a similar situation. 9 wins by KO, just 3 decision victories, all 9 wins in the opening round. But the major difference is that his 3 decision wins have shown he can fight outside of the opening round, and he has a 5-round victory. That's huge. That's huge for a young fighter. Pavlovich has faced some undersized heavyweights at times in the regional scene. Big change stepping up facing Overeem, again another bigger man here in Golm, but that reach advantage is certainly going to help him. He comes from a Greco-Roman wrestling background, which should help him to prevent Golm from getting him down with regularity. He failed in a couple takedown attempts against Alistair Overeem, lots of clinch fighting. He was punching off the break, which is something I really like fighters to do. At distance, he throws a lot of single strikes, not really active, but he'll just keep chipping away, and he's got some power. He will look to counter, and he has a nice left hook if his opponent moves in and gets a little sloppy defensively. Now, ultimately in that fight, he was taken down by a trip from Overeem and finished with some massive ground and pound. So that's something that's concerning, considering Golm's going to want to emulate that. He's going to want to run that back and get in a similar position to finish him off. Now, Golm, though, has had trouble with opponents that are just busier than him, grind away, outwork him, nothing spectacular. He's lost to some guys who were primarily wrestlers that didn't score a lot of takedowns against him, just kind of outdid him on the ground, on the feet, prevented him getting from his position of strength, which is on the mat, and he simply lost the decision. Pavlovich, again, he isn't going to overwhelm him with volume, but he's just going to be more consistent with his offensive output. He should be able to keep Golm out of top position and possibly score some takedowns of his own. Pavlovich is in a much better spot here for his second UFC fight, fighting at home, fighting a guy who struggled a little bit of late and is fighting away from home for really just the second time in his career, and he's a long way from home here. And my prediction is Sergei Pavlovich to defeat Marcelo Golm by TKO. In the co-main event of the night, we are in the UFC's lightweight division as the 16-1 Islam Makhachev takes on the debuting and fellow Russian 13-1, and I'm probably butchering this, Arman Tsarukyan. Now, the guys are combined 29-2. That's a very impressive record. Now, for Mak, he has won 4 in a row, and he's beat some some decent opponents. Gleison Tebow, Nick Lentz, he submitted Cajun Johnson. He even beat Chris Wade back in the day when he was starting to climb the ladder a little bit. He's 5-1 in the UFC overall. For Tsarukyan, he has won 12 in a row since a loss in his second career pro fight. Back-to-back wins over some noteworthy opponents, former UFC guys, Junior Sunsel, Rafael's brother, and Felipe Alvarez. So 2 impressive victories there to get himself into the UFC. Now for Mak, physically 3 inches taller, Tsarukyan has a 2-inch reach advantage, and he's the younger fighter by 5 years. Now looking at the new fighter, the new guy, he has faced a decent quality of opponent leading up to his debut. When you look at his record, he's got an even split of finishes, 10 finishes, 5 by sub, 5 by knockout, so solid there. 3 decision victories, 7 first-round finishes, but it's worth noting that he had 5 straight to start his pro career, he had 7 to start his pro career, but since then he's had 5 straight third-round fights. He did finish 2 of those matchups, but you see once he starts facing better opposition, his fights start to go longer. They elongate. When he fought Junior Sunset, lots of kicks in that matchup, came out, fairly aggressive with the kicks. He actually hurt a Sunset in the opening moments with a turning side kick, very well timed, very well placed, and offered a lot more throughout the fight. Now, he was having issues when a Sunset went aggressive with his grappling. We saw Junior have a couple sub attempts, mounted him, and we actually saw Tsarukyan saved by the bell in that matchup, where Sunset had him mounted, and he might not go to the position until the bell went. On the flip side of things, though, the Russian fighter can go offensive with his grappling. Big slams, trip takedowns from the clinch. He can, good ground and pound, got some good submissions, likes that rear naked choke or guillotine, two of his definite options. The question is that going to be available to him in this fight? For Islam Makhachev, he has shown a lot of success on the mat. He has completions in 4 of his 5 wins. The only one he didn't score a takedown in was his very, very abrupt knockout of Gleison Tebow. He has 12 wins. He had 12 takedowns in his first 3 victories, grinding guys out, eventually finishing them or getting a decision. But just one in his last fight, which led to a submission. He got Cajun down and finished him off on the mat. Now, Islam can strike, absolutely, but it's not his number one skill set. He did stop Tebow on the feet. His only career loss came against Adrian Martin via knockout, and that's worth noting that his chin isn't ironclad. But one of the things he does do, and maybe this is distracts from that, is that he limits his opponents. His ability to control guys in the top position, avoid strikes, he limits the offense his opponents are able to land, and then that magnifies the significance of his own output. If you can take your opponent's offense and nullify it, if he's only landing a couple strikes around and you're landing, you don't have to land that many to make you look more busier and make you score more often. He has very good takedowns, nice variety of takedowns. His top control is solid. He can do damage. He'll wear guys out from that top, just ride, land strikes, and just beat them up. Now, his takedown defense is also very good. It should allow him to dictate where this fight takes place. Ultimately, when you compare these two individuals, Makhachev, for my money, is the more experienced fighter. He is a slightly better version of Tsarukyan who will come along and certainly has the ability to make a run, has a skill set to make an impact on this division as deep as it is. But this is a tough fight for him in his debut. They're getting a lot of respect. Co-main event spot against a very successful UFC veteran. Look for Mak to replicate the issues Tsarukyan had on the mat. Be aggressive with his grappling. Be offensive with his top game and his wrestling, his sambo. And eventually gets that fight to the mat. And my prediction is Islam Makhachev to defeat Arman Tsarukyan by, I'm going to say, TKO. In the main event of the evening, we're in the UFC's heavyweight division. His former title challenger and 7th-ranked heavyweight Alistair the Ream Overeem, 44-17-0, takes on equally, if not more experienced, Aleksei Oleinik with a current record of 57 wins, 11 losses, and 1 draw. Oleinik is ranked 9th in the division, so 2 top 10 ranked guys with a ton of experience. You look at these two guys, they have over 120 fights combined, almost 130 total fights of experience, so very, very impressive. Now, Overeem has ended his 2-fight losing skid last time out. A TKO winner of the aforementioned Sergei Pavlovich, who I talked about. He did it in China. Back-to-back losses prior to that were to Curtis Blades and Francis Ngannou. No shame in that, 2 of the top guys in the division, but Overeem picking up a nice victory there. We'll look to make it 2 here. For Oleinik, he has won 2 consecutive fights as well. 2 consecutive fights overall. Wins over Junior Albini and Mark Hunt. He has won 4 of his last 5, and 5 of 6 UFC wins have come by submission. Physically, Overeem 2 inches taller. They have the same 80-inch reach, massively long arms for both men. But Overeem, the one difference here, should come in 20 to 25 pounds heavier than Aleksei. And he's the younger fighter by 3 years. Oleinik is certainly an older man. Oleinik has had a lot of success pulling off submissions. 45 wins by submission. That's impressive. 45 wins for his career. That's a huge number. And one thing he does so well is he gets guys in positions. That Ezekiel choke he pulls off, he gets guys in positions they're not familiar with. Guys that are like, hey, he submitted somebody who's in mount. Inexperienced fighters, he gets them on the mat, and it doesn't take very long. He's able to tap them out. Now, he's not a great wrestler. He's not saying he can't score takedowns. He still has found ways to get fights to the floor, whether it be through scrambles or even letting other guys take him down and then going to work. The way I look at it, though, Alistair Overeem is not that type of guy. He's a veteran fighter, he's an experienced guy. He's tough to take down his own rate, not impossible. His last opponent struggled in a couple attempts to control him and take him down. Curtis Blades had success. Curtis Blades is a monster of a wrestler, took him down 4 times. But otherwise, it's been very sparse when it comes to guys getting offensive success with their wrestling. When you look back over his record, Fabricio Verdum took him down once, and Overeem beat him. Stipe took him down once, Overeem lost that matchup, and Frank Mir took him down once, and Overeem won that fight. So it's possible, it's not impossible, but it's not probable. It's not very likely that we're going to see Oleinik spamming takedowns and taking Overeem off his feet with relative ease. Now, that being said, Aleksei only needs one opportunity. If he gets that fight to the floor and can get his hands around Overeem's neck in some position, he can tap him out absolutely just like he did against Mark Hunt. He can finish that fight on the mat. Now, Overeem, though, he should have a wide advantage on the feet. He's got a number of weapons, very impactful weapons. He's faster than he used to be. He's more defensively sound. He's got good kicks, good heavy hands, good knees inside. I expect to see him utilize that clinch where he can physically control Oleinik, break him down from that position with shots to the body, and just bust him up. But on the flip side, Oleinik's power is incredibly underrated. We saw him knock out Rochold back in the day, Jared Rochold. If he clips Overeem, Overeem's chin is not amazing. It's not steadfast. If he clips Overeem's chin, he could hurt him. He could put him down. At the very least, he could put him on the mat where he could then go to work with a submission game. That scarf hold is a great submission. The Ezekiel choke, things that people aren't anticipating, don't really see a lot, and it's locked in before they even know they need to defend it. Overeem, as I said, he's got better defensively. There's still holes there, but ultimately I favor him on the feet. This matchup certainly favors him as long as he stays vertical. I think Oleinik's going to get stuck on the outside, make some failed attempts to get in. Overeem's going to slide away, be a defensively smart fighter, utilize his jab, some of those kicks to just shut. Maybe he won't even go to kicks. That would be a smart move if he didn't go to kicks to avoid giving Oleinik a chance to grab on, get him off his balance, and take him down. He will throw big strikes, but Overeem's going to avoid that situation. He's going to utilize that jab, eventually go to the clinch for those knees to the body to break him down. Overeem's going to wear him down with strikes, hurt him, finish him, and my prediction is Alistair Overeem to defeat Aleksei Oleinik by TKO. So those are my 6 main card predictions for the upcoming UFC Fight Night 149 event. All of my preliminary picks will be available at kamikazeoverdrive.net. I apologize in advance. It's been a long week, and I haven't had the opportunity to get things posted like I normally do in a timely fashion, or a slightly more timely fashion. The bet pack should be up as well. Again, it's an early start on Saturday, so keep that in mind. I believe it is a 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time start for the main card, so keep that. And I think it's only on ESPN Plus as well, so make sure you're locked up and ready to go to watch the card. As always, thank you very much for tuning in. You can follow me on Twitter at KO_predictions. Don't forget, I never plug this, but don't forget to like and subscribe. It's always great to see likes and thumbs up or comment, positive, negative, whatever. If you're negative and you don't agree with my picks, just do it in a professional and acceptable manner. Don't be an asshole. It's pathetic and annoying. Don't be that type of guy. I'm right sometimes, I'm wrong other times. So are you. No one is that good at predicting. We wouldn't be here if we were. So just be cool. All right, folks, take care, and I'll talk to you soon.